In the last 4 years, Malaysia has attracted roughly 185 billion ringgit in data center investments. Oracle, AWS, ByteDance, Nvidia, Microsoft, Google, all of them are starting to commit billions of dollars on Malaysian soil. And if you've been following the headline, you probably think that the story is fairly simple. Big tech needs space, Malaysia has space, money flows in, Malaysia wins. But that's not the real story. The real story is about what's happening on the other side of the Causeway. It's about a grid that is quietly buckling now under pressure. It's about water shortfall in Johor that most people don't even know exists. And it's about a risk that nobody in the boardrooms want to say out loud, that Malaysia could end up doing all the heavy lifting for the AI economy, but the true rewards stay somewhere else. I'm gonna break this down to you today. The opportunity, the pressure, the risk, and what needs to happen for Malaysia to actually come out ahead. By the end of this video, you will understand this shift better than most people in the room, including some of the people making decisions about it. Let's go. Let's start with the basic, because the scale of what's happening here is actually underappreciated. Malaysia has 51 operational data centers right now and 33 more are coming. The market was valued at $6.14 billion in 2025 and it's projected to hit $11.4 billion in 2031. And that's not slow growth, that's a near doubling in 6 years. So why Malaysia? Why is this happening here? 3 reasons. The first is cost. Electricity in Malaysia is among the top 3 cheapest in Asia Pacific. Operating costs are estimated to be 22 to 43% lower than in Singapore. For a data center operator, that gap is enormous. That's the difference between profitable and very profitable. Second would be government incentives. Through a scheme called the DSAC, the Digital Ecosystem Acceleration Scheme, the Malaysian Investment Development Authority offers up to 100% tax allowance for eligible digital infrastructure projects. That's a very aggressive incentive. Third, and this is the one that most people miss, Singapore is running out of space. This is something that people don't really talk about enough. By 2019, data centers in Singapore were consuming over 7% of the nation's total electricity. For a city-state that imports almost all of its energy and has essentially zero land to expand power generation, that's a crisis. Singapore shut it down. They imposed a full moratorium on new data center builds. No new capacity for 3 years. When they lifted it, the conditions were brutal. The latest round of Singapore's DCCFA2, launched in December 2025, only released 200 megawatts of new capacity. And to qualify, you need to source at least 50% of this electricity from verified green energy, and your facility must hit a power usage effectiveness. Those are some of the strictest requirements in the world, and the result here is Singapore co-location vacancy rate now sitting at 1.4%. That's the tightest in all of APAC. There is no room, literally. And here's what that means for everyone else. The demand for AI infrastructure is not slowing down. It's actually accelerating. Every AI model, every cloud workload, every streaming service, they all need physical servers housed in physical buildings, consuming actual physical power. That demand has to go somewhere, and it went to Johor. And this is the part that still surprises me every time I look at it. In 2021, Johor had 10 megawatts of data centers capacity. Today, the total pipeline operational, under construction, and approved has reached 5.3 gigawatts. That's 530-fold increase in roughly 4 years. 15 data centers are already operational. 11 are under construction right now. 25 more have been approved. And it's not random speculation that's driving this. Real contracts are being signed right now. In April 2026, a company called Rex Central, which is Singapore headquartered, signed an electricity supply agreement with TNB to power the first 100 megawatt phase of their AI data center campus in Johor. In March 2026, Jati Tinggi Group secured a nearly 80 million ringgit contract from TNB to lay 275 kilovolt underground cables to power a major data center in Pasir Gudang. That's serious infrastructure going on. And the reason Johor specifically is the epicenter is simple. It's a geographic gift. Johor sits right next to Singapore. Latency between a Johor data center and a Singaporean business is under 3 milliseconds for most workloads. That's essentially the same as being in Singapore. The Johor Singapore Special Economic Zone, which was officially launched in January 2025, has formalized this cross-border corridor. It's not just proximity anymore. It's a policy now. And this is structural. Johor is being engineered into the digital backbone of Singapore's economy. But it sits on Malaysian soil, using Malaysian infrastructure and draws on Malaysian resources, which brings me to the part of the story that the press release are very quiet about. Let's talk about what data centers really need. They need power, lots of it. They need water to keep the servers cool. And here's what the current trajectory looks like for now. Right now, data center power applications to TNB has exceeded 11,000 megawatts, which is 11 gigawatts. That is equivalent to roughly 40% of Peninsular Malaysia's total installed generating capacity just sitting in the application queue. And because of this pressure, TNB has already moved in July 2025. They hiked electricity tariffs by 10 to 14% for high volume users. Data centers consuming above 100 megawatts are now classified under an ultra high voltage category, which costs them an additional $15 to $20 million annually. Now let's talk about water. As we all know today, data centers basically generate an enormous amount of heat. Traditional cooling systems use evaporative cooling powers, and that evaporates millions of gallons of potable water every day. In certain zones in Johor, the projected industrial and data center demand requires 808 million liters of water every day. Current infrastructure can only safely supply 142 million liters. That's 5.7 times shortfall. 808 million is needed. 142 million is only available right now. And this isn't a distant future problem. This is a problem that's actually already being built into the infrastructure decisions being made right now. On February 7, 2026, something happened in Gelang Petah, Johor. Over 50 residents staged a protest, Malaysia's first recorded anti-data center protest. They weren't against economic development. They were raising concerns about construction dust from ongoing data center builds and deep worry about what all this was going to do to the local water supply. 50 people in one neighborhood. This was easy to dismiss, but this is exactly how it starts in every country where this has played out before. And there is a deeper risk here that I want to name clearly. The local disruption if Malaysia just keeps approving projects, taking on the power load, the water usage, the land usage, the local disruption without building real strategic conditions around it, then there is real serious danger. Malaysia becomes Singapore's server room. All the infrastructure that we're talking about, they cost land in Malaysia. The land, the power, the water, the community disruption. But the high-paying AI jobs, the software development, the corporate headquarters, the tax revenue from the valuable parts of the stack stays in Singapore. If that happens, we are not a tech hub. We're just a service economy dressed up in big investment numbers. Now, I want to be balanced here because Malaysia is not sitting still. MIDA has introduced sustainability guidelines for data centers. New facilities must hit a power usage effectiveness of 1.6 to 1.7. Water usage effectiveness must be 2.2 cubic meters per megawatt hour or lower. Operators are advised to avoid water-stressed areas. TNB has launched what they call a green lane pathway, which is designed to cut power supply timelines from the current 36 to 48 months down to 12 months. That's a meaningful operational improvement. Malaysia has allocated 2 billion ringgit for a sovereign AI cloud under MCMC in budget 2026. The government is also developing the Corporate Renewable Energy Support Scheme (CRESS) to allow tech companies to access third-party green energy directly. These are real positive moves. If you're a founder, you're a business owner, and someone who's just tracking where Southeast Asia's tech economy is heading, this is the kind of structural shift that changes where capital flows, where jobs are created, and where the next 10 years of digital infrastructure gets built. If you want more breakdown like this on tech business and economic shifts that matter specifically for Malaysia and Singapore, subscribe here. We cover these kind of things quite regularly. So where does this leave us? Malaysia is at a genuinely important inflection point. The AI economy needs physical infrastructure, it needs land, power, water, and countries willing to build at scale. Malaysia has all of that, and it has a window right now that won't stay open forever. But infrastructure is not strategy. So attracting data centers is the easy part. Harder question is whether Malaysia captures enough of the value chain. The jobs, the skills, the sovereign data, the cloud capabilities to make this more than just a very expensive hosting agreement. The countries that control the physical infrastructure of AI will have real power in the next decade, not just as a location on a map, but as a player with leverage. Malaysia has a chance to be that player, but only if the boom is managed with the same ambition that attracted it in the first place.